Start a room, add a title, sexual yoga position. All right. Join us on zoom.us.j/77641. I might need to put the HTTP there. First, let's share this. Zoom.us/j/774498201. All right. There we go. Let's just say Corey, and then HTTP. There it is. Okay, let's change the music link. So we'll give people a second to join now that I shared it in all the groups. David Melnick is here on Zoom. Vanessa Sinclair is here on Zoom. Get started in a second. Where's the music?
Catching up to God quicker. Who would figure that all I need was a hidden trigger? Semi-automatic Mac 11 just to scare niggas. On my love poetry, but suckers is born every day and fear man. Grown trees, criminal trials for centuries. I mention in my own rhyme. So niggas whisper when they mention Machiavelli was my tutor, Donald Lawrence, my father figure. Mama sent me to go play with the drug dealers. Henceforth, we thug niggas and we carry packs. Every one of my niggas straps if they don't get. And the back, my AR-15, thugging till I die. These streets got me craving Thorazine. My lyrics are blueprints to money making. Fast that ass, that money shaking. My niggas trading ball stores. We outlaws on the rise. Tell us niggas I despise. Look in my eyes, we trading ball stores. We outlaws on the rise. Tell us niggas I despise. Look in my eyes, I hustle straight. Bugging this shit, they overdugging this shit. But I'm just a younger nigga, getting older and loving this shit. But what was I doing in this way? To the face without a pistol in the work. Better determination in the words, but I figured the play the role. The watch on display, hating niggas position, but I can see them all. Make it a part of it, lucky to be here to tell you it'll never be repeat. People, I'm trying to tell you. Now picture the scenery, the thugged out, smoking greenery. Consider the beach, but I'm on for this game, something deep. My eyes on the CDs.
Like Fuchsius, what's up? Yeah, Katarina's on. People watching on YouTube, you guys can join Zoom, you know. All right, because that light's kind of blurry. It's kind of better. Hold on, let me turn on this a little. There we go. That's way better lighting. What's up, Obed? Obed on. We'll save the rest of that song for after. Ready? Wait, where's my microphone? It's way down here. We got all kinds of devices going right now. So that should be better audio now that I move the mic. And we begin. What's up, everybody? This is Enlightened Masculinity Podcast. I'm Yogi Chris, aka Pimpin' Yogi PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga, and the director of operations at Base One, which is the big house that we operate out of here in San Jose, running events monthly, bi-monthly, gatherings of men, influential men, successful entrepreneurs, and people in different fields descend upon San Jose, Man Jose, as they call it, because the ratio of women to men. And yet we've established ourselves in these different venues that allow men to come here and have interactions in a way that men everywhere are so suppressed. It's really a big suppression against men. And there's, in the spiritual community, there's a movement of men that go towards this like sexual tantra and enlightenment through sexuality, but they become extremely feminine men. And really it becomes two women fucking when they get to it. But there is wisdom in that. It's just they've lost their essence of masculinity, because really what they're doing is they're trying to give themselves more options sexually. And that's how they would do that in that, amongst that community of women and feminists and, kind of new age, empowered women in that sort, that like to be sexually expressive, but not with macho men because they're afraid of macho men, probably because they were abused by macho men in some way. And the thing is they're abused by the sensitive men too. They just are more in control. And so they tolerate this kind of psychological abuse back and forth. It's two women that are, the way that they fight and interact. So some wisdom, because for some reason, and largely because AZD-IMC, or maybe my upbringing or whatever, but for some reason I was able to retain the seed of masculinity in me as I became so docile doing yoga. And I became a docile personality. And so I still needed philosophy and communication skills and understanding of female psychology, because you understand male psychology when you separate and understand female psychology. And because there's a lot of choices available to us for how to be. And when we tune or align with a more masculine behavior or more alpha behavior relative to the woman, or when she tunes to a more submissive behavior, that she doesn't put herself in danger. That's why you actually have to be the masculine, protective presence. It's fulfilling on a deep genetic level, or that's what it feels like. It feels like a genetic level. It feels so deep. It feels resonant in the body, and you feel like aligned or whatever. When it comes to sexual yoga positions, that's kind of what I titled this video. The practice of yoga and opening the body makes a lot of your system more available for the ecstasy of yoga. It makes you more mobile, more body aware, more coordinated, more in tune with your breath, and able to kind of manipulate your body in a way that's subtle, that doesn't necessarily give you like superpowers, but it does make you better than you were. You improve yourself and on your own abilities as you practice synchronized breathing and stretching, or really any kind of yoga. Like any kind of yoga will bring a body awareness as you stretch. Like if you were doing yin yoga, as you stretch, you really are going to pull your consciousness into the sensation of that stretch and become more aware of those body parts. Plus you become more mobile, which makes many more sexual positions available to you. Different seated positions, different ways to bend your spine that make your pelvis more available. And with that mobility, there's an, especially let's say the upper spine and the chest. People call it the chest, but really what's so fascinating about the chest is it's really the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades are what open the chest. The chest doesn't really, you're not going to just like, doing this is trying to leverage your shoulders and your shoulder blades really to open your ribs. The opening of the thoracic spine is going to have almost all to do with your shoulder blades, even your neck muscles that connect to your shoulder blades. As it pinches in the back, it closes and tightens. The chest muscle that tightens is a shoulder blade muscle that connects the ribs to the shoulder blade. So as you do yoga and make your shoulder blades more mobile, and you can open up your chest and your upper spine, there's a lot of sensation, a lot of energy flow that can move from the lower part of the torso to the upper part into the brain. And your breathing becomes more easy, so much improved. Circulation of blood, of air, of information and sensory information in the nerves, it gets more clear. And especially as a counteraction to sexual ecstasy, because there's a tightening that comes from the orgasm or comes as the orgasm approaches. And the ability to keep the body open or notice tension is beneficial. Maybe you want to orgasm, maybe you want to prolong it, maybe you want to build it up. You'll naturally see and feel these experiences as you just, if you practice yoga, you'll naturally do yoga, like something like your yoga in sexual experiences. The way you move your body, especially interestingly, and I always hated these, but the standing postures in yoga, standing forward folds, triangle poses, side lateral poses, anything with your feet fixed and you're doing like leg stretches, but with both your feet, maybe your spread legs. Those, if you are much safer and better for opening your pelvis and your hips. And so as you are able to manipulate your left pelvis from your right pelvis, most people, it's so just tight together, the sacrum and the two pelvis, it's just like moves as one clump. But there is mobility in there, and just little slight mobility in the pelvis is very sensational. There's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of organs, and without, of course, we don't want to like destabilize and like go off, because just a little bit ability to resituate oneself, to kind of forget the word for what the terminology of when you move the sitting bones away from each other. I almost wanted to say like subflux or something, but I think I just made that word up. But little movement. And then of course, how the femurs come into the pelvis and that ability to rotate and use your legs to open the pelvis. It just makes things available, and combining the upper body, the shoulder blades, and then what's going on in the pelvis. Now you have, because with the shoulder blades and the heart opening, it gets so cliche and like spiritual. It's like a spiritual catchphrase or spiritual like trend there. That's like, it's like a trending phrase to talk about like heart opening, chest opening. So it's not more spiritual than it sounds, really. Chest opening and heart opening, it's what you do with it. So if you can, yank your body open through stretching, that doesn't make you a better person. It does make energy more available to flow up and down, but you might be surprised how much tightness there is related to a person's thinking deep in the channels of the body. So even though externally the skeleton, which is like external to the mind, externally the skeleton, the muscles and joints and everything, they can move, that's different than being open inside. And yet being open inside is still limited by tension in the body. So there's mental yoga, there's physical yoga, and in sex, there is this very important thing that was never talked about until I got into the IMC Nation. And as I figured it out in my quest to be better at sex, as a man, to be better at sex, is communication. Sex is communication. And good sex is a natural process, is a natural thing, a phenomenon that happens within the conversation, within the communication, communicating back and forth. And yeah, the communication changes flavor. It's not like we're talking about our taxes or whatever, and then it transitions into sex or whatever. But it is it's an eye communication, it's tonality, it's touch, it's body positioning, it's noticing pheromones and whatever you may not even know that you're noticing. But it's noticing when she's ready. It's her noticing when he's ready. He's probably always ready. It depends. Like, how much is he around you? And the checking in with each other, similar to how you check in with yourself as you do more yoga, even any exercise, I think, although some people probably never experience this, and this is why yoga is good, because you calm down, so you notice your mental activity as you do it. And so you'll naturally see this next thing, which is you talk to yourself. And so as you get more experienced in your body practice, you learn to talk to yourself in a way that assists your body practice. You talk yourself into being open. You talk your muscle into relaxing. You notice when you're talking negatively to yourself and that's tightening you. That's when like muscles pull or whatever. I guarantee anytime you pull a muscle or whatever stretching, you were saying some dumb shit to yourself while you were doing that stretching. Something that was making you aggressively stretch or something. So that is an internal communication. And of course, there's a lot going on in her head as a guy. There's a lot going on in her head through it. She should know there's probably some things going on in your head. And a lot of sex before I got into the science of communication and my passion about communication, sex seemed very separate from communication. There was very little communication, even though it was happening there, grunts and moans and talking even a little bit. But understanding the intimacy of the mind and how the mind opens the eyes are really, I don't know if they're the windows to the soul, but they're definitely portals right into that brain. It's definitely a big nerve right there, right into the brain. And so through eye contact, a lot about a person's mental state. The sounds and the facial expressions they're making, the tension they're having, and the ability to call it out. If you were too tense in a yoga pose and you thought an injury might happen, you might notice things like that when in the partner, when they're too tense. Not that they're going to be injured, but there's a tension that's hard to tolerate because you wouldn't want it in yourself. And you're in union in those experiences. So there is a transmission. A lot of that is what the woman really loves, is that transmission of strong, positive energy, certainty, and confidence that comes from being with a real man. She literally duplicates that in the sexual action. It's as deep as it can go. She's plugging in and she's receiving yang energy. And it's bringing order and brightness in her, hopefully. Now, there's a lot of traumas in people that could be triggered. There's bad sexual experiences. There's blah, 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 blah. But if a person or two people are in good communication, those just become speed bumps on the road. It's a longer road than just those things. Or even just a gravel section or some pothole, a bad part of the road or whatever. But, until you drive that road, you wouldn't even know those are there. And eventually the road will deteriorate unless you drive that road. So all of the practices of yoga will open your body and give you body awareness. And the focus of the mental practices of yoga, and especially with ninth limb yoga emphasizing communication, that internal dialogue, like when people have difficulty orgasming, there's an internal movie and dialogue happening. When people come too quickly, there's an internal dialogue and movie happening. So the mental yoga is very important. And I could say more on that. I mean, the mental yoga is going to come a lot through self-awareness practices and people being in communication with people who emphasize communication. That helps you see your mind and helps you see communication. The physical opening is really only going to happen through practice. You got to stretch. You got to move your body, do the hatha yoga, whatever practices you do. So let's see. There's a private question here. If you practice yoga on a regular basis, do you believe that it will result in better sexual experience as opposed to an individual who does not practice, right? Of course, 100%, for sure. Guaranteed. How much depends a lot on the individual, but more mobility definitely enhances sexual experience. More awareness. I mean, people are numb to parts of their body, especially in the pelvic floor and the heart and chest. And as you learn to stretch or reach your arms and the shoulder blade, and then combined with the inhales and you stretch your ribs and open your chest, the blood flow that goes through that. And then the same thing with the pelvis, as you're doing leg stretches, it's pulling on a lot of that deeper anatomy. In the pelvic floor, there's a lot of smaller muscles, not just the big thigh muscles and hip flexors and glutes and things. There's deeper muscles. As you do leg stretches, you're pulling on those. And those have become really asymmetric, tight, and hard through driving and sitting all the time. And that's inhibiting blood flow and sexual pleasure through the pelvis. You could be an up and active kind of person, but that may not loosen the pattern of tension, the tension pattern that has come with your desk or seated lifestyle. So the stretches of yoga practice, or what I do with my YouTube playlist that I give the women or the guys in the guys Telegram group, which if you're watching this on my yoga YouTube, then you should know that I have Telegram groups where I'm actually teaching people yoga. So message me or something. You should be on Zoom right now anyway. If you want to get that free yoga advice, it's free open yoga group. For sure. Oh man, the breathing, the panic experience that comes with yoga, where you're stretching in certain stretches, you'll feel a certain sort of panic. To learn to breathe through that is extremely helpful and sensational in sex. The ability to do that, because those moments, I don't measure so much what I do anymore, but I see how along the way, I was so tight as a rod of muscle, and there's been just so many experiences. I don't need to really go through that, but the yes, of course, it's a big yes. Do yoga every day, a little bit. Even just relaxing, laying in shavasana, the ability to relax and the practice of relaxing does so much just for life. Stress is a big turn off when you're under too much stress. Sometimes it seems like stress release to have sex, but that's very animal. That's very monkey. Really good sex is going to be when you're calmed down in a state of communion with the person. There maybe, of course, there's exceptions. I mean, heightened kind of danger moments, like you might get caught, or so yeah. I mean, I should take a survey. I should go have a lot of sex and then come up with all the sexual experiences that one could have, and I'll come back with a list. Okay, how about that? So that's the end of what I was going to talk about yoga and sexual postures. I really recommend getting on my Telegram. You could go right to my YouTube. It's just, and there are playlists there, so check those out. There's a lot of playlists about so many different subjects, but if you look for posture practices, then you'll find playlists there for that. In my Telegram groups, I've organized them in a way and presented them and pinned the posts so that you can easily navigate to the post that has the playlist. You could ask questions. It's more direct communication. So that's the thing to do, really, if you want to get yoga from me. And even if you don't want to do that, just awareness that yoga will open your body, open your nervous system, and to more experience, a more full experience. It's not like a drug that's you're heightening and somehow tampering with things. You're just accessing more of what's already there. If there's tension or numbness in the body, that's the opposite of feeling. It's going to get numb, and you're going to lose circulation and sensation and coordination and a fullness of experience that's available to you that you can experience with another person. And when they can do that too, and you both have a sort of self-control, or self-control doesn't mean like holding it back, but like awareness of the body, mobility, coordination, all those things I was saying, then it becomes even more playful and more entrancing, more unifying. And, those are great byproducts of, great sex. So that's what I have to say. I don't see any other comments. Are you going to come out with a new product, sexual yoga postures? No, I don't think so. Maybe as I have more sex, possibly. I could see that in the future. I'm not stretching so much to do like exotic things really, but like Kama Sutra things. But I think I do actually, because I don't realize most girls are more tense than me. So guys are definitely way more tense than me. As you loosen up your body, there's definitely things to do. So yeah, let's keep a list. I'll keep a list of all the things, all the postures that I discover that are so great. And then I'll come out with a product, right? And we'll just put a black bar over the girl, over her titties and her face. And of course, we'll have to do live demos, right? It's not porn, it's educational. So Rated X on ninthlimb.com. Coming soon. All right. That's the end of Enlightened Masculinity. Hope you enjoyed it. Guys, we have two gatherings coming up, two parties that are combined with the gatherings. That's December 10th weekend, December 17th weekend, back to back. But it's extremely discounted right now for the next 24 hours, which is really the next like 16 hours, because the promotion started, at 10 a.m. today. So hit me up about that. I mean, if you're watching the recording to this later, then you missed the promo period, but still hit me up about that. You'll catch all that info on imcbase1.com. and get on my newsletter there, because I send out info regularly there. Is there anything from the audience? David Melnick, I saw you put your video on. Does that mean you have something to say? Or are you just showing me the New York scenery or something? All right. Right on. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next time on Enlightened Masculinity. Oh, tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, we have guests. So for the next 3 days, this podcast at 5 p.m., except Friday is 4 p.m. And so it's